Welcome back to Tales of the Dark. This happened a few years ago when I was home alone for the weekend. My parents had gone out of town, and my older sister was staying at a friend's place, so it was just me in the house. At first I was actually excited. No rules, no noise, just peace. That feeling didn't last long. It was around 10:30 p.m. when everything started. I remember I was in the kitchen making something quick to eat, just frozen food, nothing complicated. The TV was on in the living room behind me, just loud enough to fill the silence. And then I heard it, a cough. It came from the basement, not loud, not aggressive, just a normal human cough, the kind you make without thinking. I froze immediately. At first I told myself it had to be something else. Maybe the pipes, maybe the house settling. Old houses make weird noises all the time, but deep down I knew that wasn't it, because that sound, it was too clear, too human. I stood there in the kitchen, not moving, just listening. The TV kept playing behind me, but everything else felt dead quiet. I waited. 5 seconds, 10 seconds, nothing, no movement, no footsteps, just silence again. I let out a breath and laughed a little under my breath, trying to calm myself down. "You're overthinking it," I said. I even turned the TV volume up a little just to make the house feel less empty. Then I went back to cooking. And that's when I heard it again. This time it was louder, a cough followed by what sounded like something shifting, like someone moving their weight on the floor. My stomach dropped instantly. I turned off the stove, slowly, quietly. I didn't want to make any noise. I didn't want whoever was down there to know I heard them, because now there was no denying it. Someone was in my basement, and I was alone in the house. I grabbed my phone off the counter, my hands already starting to shake. I thought about calling 911 right then, but something stopped me. What if I was wrong? What if it really was just some weird noise? I didn't want to sound stupid. I didn't want to waste police time. That hesitation was a mistake, because a few seconds later, I heard footsteps, slow, heavy, coming from the basement stairs. Each step creaked slightly as it went up. One step, pause, another step, pause. Whoever it was, they weren't rushing. They weren't trying to hide anymore. They knew I was upstairs, and they were coming up anyway. I backed away from the kitchen slowly, my eyes locked on the basement door, waiting for the handle to move, waiting for it to open, but it didn't. The footsteps stopped right at the top of the stairs, right behind the door, and then nothing, just silence again. But this silence felt different. This wasn't empty. This was someone standing there, listening. I didn't breathe, I didn't move, I just stared at that door. Seconds felt like minutes. Minutes felt like forever. And then the doorknob twitched just slightly, like someone on the other side had tested it. That was it, that was all I needed. I turned and ran straight out of the house, didn't grab anything, didn't lock the door. I just ran barefoot across the driveway and into the street. I didn't stop until I was halfway down the block. Then I finally called 911. My voice was shaking so bad the operator could barely understand me. I told them someone was inside my house, that I heard them in the basement, that they were trying to come upstairs. Police arrived within minutes, but those minutes felt like hours. I stood outside watching my house from a distance, expecting to see someone walk out at any second, but no one did. When the officers went inside, they cleared the house room by room, then the basement. A few minutes later, one of them came back out, and his face. It told me everything. Someone had been down there. They found signs of someone staying, food wrappers, a blanket, even a flashlight. Whoever it was had been living in my basement, and they had no idea I was home until that night. The officer asked me one question before they left, something I still think about. He said, "Do you know how long they were down there?" I shook my head, and he just looked back at the house and said, "Long enough to feel comfortable." I never stayed home alone after that, and even now, every time I hear a noise in the house, I don't assume it's nothing, because sometimes it is. I was 14 the first time my parents trusted me to stay home alone at night. It wasn't supposed to be a big deal. They were just going out for dinner with some friends, maybe a movie after. I'd be alone for a few hours tops. I even remember being excited about it. I had snacks, the TV to myself, and no one telling me when to go to bed. At first, it felt normal, comfortable, safe. I locked the doors like my mom told me to. Front door, back door, even checked the windows. Then I settled into the living room and started watching TV. Everything was fine for the first hour. Then it got quiet, not just normal quiet, but that heavy kind of silence you only notice when you're completely alone. I didn't think much of it at first, until I heard the knock. It came from the back door, 3 slow, deliberate knocks, not loud, not aggressive, just enough to make sure I heard it. I froze. No one ever comes to the back door, ever. If someone visits, they use the front door, always. I muted the TV immediately. The silence that followed made my chest tighten. Then it came again, 3 more knocks. Exactly the same, slow, even intentional. I stood up slowly, my eyes locked on the hallway that led to the kitchen. The back door was just past that. I didn't want to go near it, but I also couldn't just ignore it. "Hello," I called out, my voice already shaking. No response, just silence. I took a few steps forward. Each step felt heavier than the last. As I got closer, I could see the faint outline of the door through the kitchen light. And then a voice, right on the other side. "Hey, is your dad home?" It was a man's voice, calm, almost casual, but something about it felt wrong, too flat, too controlled. "No," I said, stopping a few feet away from the door. "He's not here." There was a pause, then the man spoke again. "Oh, okay, I was just wondering if he still had that old car for sale." My heart started racing. "We didn't have a car for sale, not now, not ever." "I think you have the wrong house," I said quickly. Another pause, longer this time. Then, "Are you sure?" The way he said it, it didn't sound like a normal question. It sounded like he already knew the answer. I didn't respond, I just stood there, waiting, listening. Then I heard something shift outside, not footsteps, not walking, more like someone adjusting their position, like they were leaning closer to the door. Then the doorknob moved, slowly, gently. Like he was testing it. My stomach dropped instantly. I stepped back without even thinking. "It's locked," I said, my voice barely coming out. He didn't respond, but the handle moved again, this time harder, more force, then stopped. Silence. I didn't breathe, didn't move, didn't even blink. Seconds passed. Then minutes, nothing. I thought maybe he left, maybe it was over. And then a soft sound, right next to the door, like something brushing against the wall, or a hand sliding across it. Then his voice again, quieter this time, almost a whisper. "You shouldn't be alone." My entire body went cold. I turned and ran to the living room, grabbed my phone, and locked myself in the bathroom. I didn't care if I looked stupid anymore. I called my mom first. She didn't pick up. Then my dad, straight to voicemail. That's when I called 911. I told them everything, my voice shaking so bad I could barely get the words out. They told me to stay locked inside and not make any noise, so I sat there, on the bathroom floor, holding my breath, listening, and that's when I heard it, footsteps. But not at the back door anymore. They were moving around the house, slow, careful, like he was checking windows, looking for another way in. I covered my mouth to keep from making a sound. My heart felt like it was going to explode, then a loud bang. From the side of the house, I flinched so hard I dropped my phone. Another bang, then silence, complete silence, until sirens, faint at first, then getting louder, closer. The footsteps outside stopped immediately. I didn't hear him leave, didn't hear running, nothing, just gone. When the police arrived, they searched the entire property. Front yard, backyard, around the house, but they didn't find anyone, no footprints, no signs of forced entry, nothing, like he was never there. But before they left, one of the officers told me something that made everything worse. He said, "Whoever that was, they knew you were alone." I asked him how he knew that, and he just looked at the back door and said, "Because they didn't knock on the front." I never stayed home alone again after that night, and even now. If someone knocks on a door I'm not expecting, I don't answer, because sometimes they're not asking to come in. They're just checking if you're alone. I still remember the exact sound that woke me up. It wasn't loud, it wasn't sudden, it was slow, metal dragging against metal. Like something heavy being pulled across the floor. At first I thought I was dreaming. You know that state where you're half asleep, half awake, and your brain tries to make sense of random noise. That's what it felt like, until I heard it again. A sharp clink followed by a dragging sound. That's when I sat up, completely awake now. My room was dark, except for a faint glow coming from the hallway light I had left on. I always left it on when I was home alone. It made the house feel less empty. That night it wasn't helping, because the sound was coming from downstairs, more specifically the basement. I stayed still in bed listening, trying to figure out what it could be. Maybe pipes, maybe something fell, maybe clink, drag. There it was again. Clear as day, metal on concrete, slow, deliberate, and way too controlled to be random. My chest tightened, because I knew exactly what that sound reminded me of: chains. I swallowed hard and reached for my phone on the nightstand. 11:47 p.m. My parents weren't coming back until morning. My older brother was out with friends. I was completely alone, or at least I was supposed to be. I got out of bed slowly, trying not to make noise. The floor creaked under my weight and I froze instantly, waiting, listening. The sound stopped just like that, gone. Like whoever or whatever was making it had heard me. I didn't breathe, didn't move. Seconds passed. Then clink, drag, it started again, but this time it sounded different, closer. My stomach dropped, because the basement door was directly below the stairs, which meant whatever was down there was right under me. I backed away from the door to my room. Every instinct in my body was telling me the same thing: don't go down there, don't investigate, don't make noise, just stay quiet. So that's what I did. I locked my bedroom door, turned off my light, and sat on the floor with my back against the wall, holding my phone. I thought about calling 911, but again that same doubt crept in. What if it's nothing? What if I'm overreacting? I didn't want to sound crazy, so instead I called my mom. It rang and rang. No answer. I tried my brother next, straight to voicemail. I was on my own, and the sound kept going. Clink, drag, over and over, slow, patient, like it wasn't trying to scare me, like it didn't care if I heard it. Then suddenly it stopped, completely. No dragging, no movement, nothing. The silence that followed was worse than the sound, because now I didn't know where it was. I stayed there on the floor for what felt like forever, just staring at my door, waiting. Then a new sound from the hallway: footsteps, light, careful. Moving toward my room. My entire body locked up, because there was no way, no possible way anyone should be upstairs. I held my breath. The footsteps got closer, then stopped right outside my door. I stared at the handle, waiting for it to move, waiting for it to turn. Nothing, just silence again. Then a soft sound right against the door, like something brushing against it, or someone leaning on it. I could feel tears forming in my eyes, but I didn't dare make a sound. I didn't dare move, because whoever was out there had been in my basement minutes ago, and now they were upstairs, right outside my room. Then a voice, low, barely above a whisper. Hello. I covered my mouth instantly, because that voice, I recognized it. It sounded like my dad, but that didn't make sense. He wasn't supposed to be home, and something about it felt wrong, off, like someone trying to imitate him. Open the door, the voice said softly. My heart dropped, because now I knew that wasn't my dad, it just sounded like him. And if I opened that door, I don't think I'd be here talking about this. So I stayed silent, completely still, not responding, not moving. Minutes passed, then finally footsteps, moving away, slow, calm, heading back down the hallway. I didn't relax, I didn't move, I stayed exactly where I was. Until I saw sunlight coming through my window. When morning came, I ran out of that house without looking back. Later, my parents told me something they had never mentioned before, something that made everything worse. Apparently, the previous owner of the house had installed chains in the basement. For storage, at least that's what they said, but no one had used them in years. And when we checked the basement that morning, one of those chains was no longer hanging on the wall. It was lying on the floor, like it had been dragged, slowly, across the concrete. I refused to stay in that house alone ever again. And to this day, if I hear metal dragging in the dark, I don't go looking for it, because some sounds aren't meant to be explained. This happened when I was 16. My parents had gone out of town for the weekend, and for once they trusted me enough to stay home alone. No siblings, no relatives, just me and a quiet house that suddenly felt a lot bigger than it ever had before. At first, it felt like freedom. I ordered food, blasted music, stayed up way later than I should have. Nothing felt off, nothing felt wrong, until it did. It was around 1:30 in the morning when I finally decided to go to bed. I remember turning off the TV, and the moment the sound cut out, the silence hit me immediately. It felt heavier than usual, like the house had been holding its breath, waiting for everything to go quiet. I shook it off and headed upstairs. Every step creaked louder than I remembered. I don't know why, but I kept glancing behind me as I walked up. Like I had this weird feeling something was just out of sight, but every time I looked, nothing. I got to my room, shut the door and locked it. Not because I was scared, just habit, or at least that's what I told myself. I left my bedside lamp on. I always did when I was alone. Complete darkness didn't feel right. I got into bed, scrolled on my phone for a bit, then eventually turned the light off and tried to sleep. That's when I heard it, a faint sound from down the hall. At first it was so subtle I thought I imagined it, like a soft shift. Or maybe a footstep. I held still, listening, nothing. I exhaled slowly and closed my eyes again. Then another sound, clearer this time, a step coming from my parents' bedroom. My eyes snapped open. There was no reason for anyone to be in that room. No one was supposed to be in the house. I sat up slowly, my heart starting to beat faster. "Hello," I called out. No response, just silence. I stared at my door, waiting, hoping to hear something that made sense, a voice, a normal explanation, but nothing came. After a minute, I convinced myself it was just the house settling. Old houses make noise. Everyone says that. I laid back down, pulled the blanket up, closed my eyes, and then a sound that made my entire body go cold, a slow creak right outside my door. Like someone had stepped onto the hallway floorboard. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The handle didn't turn, there was no knocking, just presence, someone standing there right outside my room. Seconds stretched into minutes. I could feel my heartbeat in my ears, and then the creaking moved away, slow footsteps. Back down the hall, toward my parents' room again. I stayed frozen, waiting, listening. Then I heard it, the sound of a closet door opening inside their room. It was faint but unmistakable, that soft wooden creak. Then silence. That was it, no more footsteps, no more movement, just silence. And somehow that made it worse, because now I didn't know where they were or what they were doing. I grabbed my phone slowly, checked the time, 2:07 a.m. I thought about calling 911, but again that doubt. What if it's nothing? What if I'm overreacting? I hated that feeling, that hesitation. It's like your brain tries to protect you from fear, even when fear is exactly what you should be listening to. I sat there for another 10 minutes, doing nothing, just staring at my door until I finally couldn't take it anymore. I had to know, I had to check, and that decision was the worst mistake I could have made. I got out of bed slowly. My legs felt weak, like they didn't want to move, but I forced myself forward. Step by step, I reached the door. Placed my hand on the handle, paused, listening one last time. Nothing. I unlocked it slowly, carefully, and opened the door just a crack. The hallway was dimly lit by the small nightlight near the stairs. Everything looked normal, too normal. I stepped out. Each step felt loud, even though I was trying to be quiet. I moved toward my parents' room. The door was slightly open, just enough to see inside, and that's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The light inside their room was off, but their closet door was wide open. I stopped, every instinct screaming at me to turn around, to go back, to lock myself in my room and call for help, but I didn't. I took another step forward, then another, until I was standing right outside their doorway. I leaned in slightly, trying to see inside. The room was dark, shadows everywhere, nothing moving, nothing obvious. And then I saw it. Inside the closet, something was there, a shape low to the ground, crouched completely still. At first my brain didn't process it, it just looked like darkness, but then it shifted just slightly and I realized that wasn't an object, that was a person, crouched inside the closet, watching me. My entire body locked up, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. We just stared at each other in complete silence. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I could see his eyes, reflecting just enough light to stand out in the darkness, unblinking, focused on me. And then he smiled slowly, wide, and started to stand up. That's when I ran. I didn't think, didn't look back. I just ran straight to my room, slammed the door, locked it, and pushed my dresser in front of it. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely dial my phone. I called 911, barely able to speak. "There's someone in my house," I whispered. "Please, please send someone." The operator told me to stay on the line, to stay hidden, to stay quiet, so I did. I sat there on the floor staring at my door, waiting, listening, and then footsteps running fast down the hallway toward my room. The handle shook violently, over and over. Like he was trying to force it open. I screamed, I couldn't help it. And then it stopped, silence. Again, moments later I heard something else. A door opening downstairs, then closing. He was gone. The police arrived minutes later. They searched the entire house, but they didn't find him. No forced entry, no broken windows, nothing, like he had never been there, except for one thing. Inside my parents' closet they found footprints, fresh. And right in the center of the closet floor was a single item, a knife that didn't belong to us. I didn't stay in that house again until my parents came back. And even now I can't sleep in complete darkness. Because sometimes when I close my eyes I still see him, crouched in that closet, waiting, watching, smiling. This happened when I was about 17. My parents had gone out for the night, and I was home alone like I had been plenty of times before. It wasn't anything new. I knew the routine: lock the doors, keep the lights on, maybe stay downstairs so the house didn't feel so empty. That night felt normal. Too normal. I was sitting in the living room, TV on low, scrolling through my phone. It was around 11:15 p.m., and I remember thinking about going to bed early because I had school the next day. That thought never mattered, because a few minutes later, I heard the front door open. Not a knock, not a handle being tested. The door just opened slowly, like someone had a key. My head snapped toward the hallway instantly. For a split second I felt relief. "Oh, they're home early," I muttered. That's what my brain wanted to believe, that it was normal, that it was safe. Then I heard a voice, a man's voice, confused, low. "What?" A pause, then, "There's somebody in here." My entire body went cold. That wasn't my dad, that wasn't anyone I knew. That was a stranger, inside my house. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I just sat there, frozen on the couch, staring at the dark hallway that led to the front door. I could hear him moving now, slow footsteps. Careful, like he was trying to understand where he was. Or who else was inside. I turned the TV off instantly. The sudden silence made everything worse, because now I could hear everything, every step, every shift, every breath. My heart was pounding so hard I thought he would hear it. I slowly slid off the couch and crouched behind it. My phone was still in my hand. I thought about calling 911, but I didn't want to make a sound. Didn't want to risk him hearing my voice, because right now I didn't know what he wanted, or what he would do if he found me. The footsteps got closer, moving through the house, room to room. He wasn't rushing, he wasn't panicking, he was exploring like he didn't belong there but also wasn't afraid. Then he spoke again, louder this time. "Hello." I shut my eyes tightly, hoping, praying that he wouldn't come into the living room, that he'd realize his mistake and leave. Then I heard something that made my stomach drop, the sound of the door closing behind him. He had shut himself inside, whether it was intentional or not. He was now fully in the house, and I was trapped with him. The footsteps started again, closer now, approaching the living room. I could see the faint outline of movement through the hallway entrance, a shadow crossing the wall. My breathing became shallow, controlled, silent. Then he stepped into the room. I couldn't see his face from where I was hiding, just his legs, standing a few feet away from the couch, still, completely still. I thought he saw me. I thought it was over, but then he muttered something under his breath. "Wrong house." I almost didn't hear it, but I did. And those two words changed everything, because that meant one thing: he didn't come here for me, he came here for someone else. And if he thought this was the wrong house, what was the right one? What was he planning to do there? My mind raced with possibilities I didn't want to think about. He stood there for a few more seconds, then turned and walked out just like that. No rush, no panic, just calm, like nothing had happened. I stayed frozen behind the couch, not moving, not breathing, until I heard the front door open again, then close, and then silence. I waited 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 before I finally stood up. My legs felt weak. My hands were shaking. I walked slowly to the front door. It was closed but unlocked. Just like before, I locked it immediately, then called my parents, then the police. When the officers arrived, they searched the house, checked every room, every window, everything, but there was no sign of forced entry, no broken locks, nothing. which meant one thing: he had gotten in easily. Too easily. One of the officers asked me if we ever left the door unlocked. I said no, never. Then he asked something that stuck with me. Did you hear how he said it? I looked at him, confused. He didn't sound surprised, the officer said. He sounded disappointed. That hit me hard because he was right. That man wasn't scared, he wasn't confused, he wasn't panicking, he was expecting something or someone. And when he realized it wasn't here, he left. Like he had something else to do, somewhere else to go. I never found out what he was looking for, or who, but sometimes I think about it, late at night, when the house is quiet, and I wonder if he had walked into the right house that night, what would have happened, and more importantly, was I just lucky? Or was someone else not? I wasn't completely alone that night. My younger sister was home too. She was 12 and I was 15, so technically I was in charge. Our parents had gone out for a late dinner, and like always they told me the same things: lock the doors, don't open for anyone, call if anything feels off. At the time it all felt routine, normal. We'd been home alone before. Nothing had ever happened until that night. It started around 10:00 p.m. We were both in the living room, sitting on opposite ends of the couch. She was watching something on TV and I was half paying attention while scrolling on my phone. The house felt quiet, but not in a bad way, just calm, safe. Then my sister asked something that didn't make sense. Did someone just walk by the window? I looked up immediately. What? She pointed toward the front of the house. I thought I saw someone outside. I frowned. No, you didn't, I said, probably just a shadow. That's what I told her, but even as I said it, I felt something shift inside me, because something about her voice sounded certain, not confused, not unsure. Certain. I stood up slowly and walked toward the window. The curtains were slightly open, just enough to see the front yard. At first I didn't see anything, just the streetlight across the road casting that dull yellow glow. Empty sidewalk, still trees, nothing unusual. I almost laughed it off, almost turned away. And then I saw him, standing near the edge of our yard, completely still, a man. Wearing a dark hoodie and a ski mask. My heart dropped instantly. He wasn't moving, wasn't looking around. He was staring directly at the house, at us. I stepped back from the window immediately. Okay, yeah, there's someone out there, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. My sister sat up straight. What, who? Just stay calm, I said quickly. It's probably nothing. But I knew that wasn't true. People don't stand outside houses at night wearing masks, not for no reason. Then he moved slowly toward the house. My chest tightened. Get up, I told my sister. Now, she didn't argue. We both stepped away from the window, and that's when we heard it, a knock on the front door 3 times, slow, heavy, each knock echoing through the house. My sister grabbed my arm. Don't open it, she whispered. I'm not going to, I said. We stood there in silence, waiting, listening. Then another knock, louder this time, more aggressive, and then a voice muffled through the door. Hey, open up. My stomach twisted. There was no reason for anyone to be at our door that late. No reason for someone like that to be asking to come in. We're not opening it, I shouted back, trying to sound confident. There was a pause, then a soft laugh, low, unsettling, and then nothing, no more knocking, no more voice, just silence. I slowly backed away from the door, pulled my sister with me. We went straight to the kitchen and grabbed my phone. I called my dad first, no answer, then my mom, still nothing. So I called 911, I told them everything. My voice shaking as I explained there was a man outside wearing a mask, trying to get in. The operator told us to stay away from doors and windows, to hide if we could, and that officers were on the way, so we did. We locked ourselves in my parents' bedroom, turned off the lights, and waited. Minutes passed, felt like hours, then we heard it. A sound from outside, not knocking this time, scratching along the wall, slow, dragging, like something running across the siding. My sister started crying quietly. I held her hand, trying to keep her calm, but inside I was panicking. Then a louder noise from the back of the house, like something hitting the glass. Once, then again, harder. I realized what he was doing. He was checking for another way in, windows, doors, anything. And we were trapped inside. Then suddenly sirens, distant at first, then getting louder, closer. The noise outside stopped immediately, everything went quiet. By the time the police arrived, the man was gone. No sign of him, no footprints, nothing, like he had disappeared into the night. But one officer said something before they left, something I'll never forget. He asked if the man had said anything specific. I told him what I remembered. "Hey, open up." The officer nodded slowly, then said, "That's not random." I looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" He glanced toward the front door, then back at me. "That's what they say when they've already been watching you." That hit me harder than anything else, because it meant he didn't just walk by, he didn't just pick our house randomly, he knew we were inside. He knew we were alone, and he came anyway. After that night, I never sit near windows when it's dark outside, and if I ever think I see someone watching, I don't check twice, because sometimes you're not imagining it. I wasn't expecting anything to happen that night. It was just another quiet evening at home. My parents had gone out to visit relatives, and I stayed behind because I had schoolwork to finish. I had the entire house to myself, which honestly didn't bother me. I liked the silence. I liked being alone. At least I thought I did. It was around 9:45 p.m. I was in the kitchen making something simple, just heating up leftovers. The TV in the living room was playing in the background, low enough to hear but not distracting. Everything felt normal, routine, safe. Then something shattered. A loud, violent crash. Glass exploded across the kitchen floor. I jumped back instinctively, my heart slamming against my chest. For a split second, I didn't even understand what happened. Then I saw it. The window, it had been smashed in, and lying on the floor, surrounded by broken glass, was a hammer. I stared at it, frozen, trying to process what I was looking at, because that didn't make sense. None of it did. Then my brain caught up. Someone had just thrown that from outside. I slowly looked toward the broken window, and that's when I saw her. A woman standing outside, just standing there. She wasn't running, she wasn't hiding. She was looking straight at me. My entire body went cold. Her face was expressionless, no anger, no panic, no emotion at all, just empty. I took a step back, then another. "What the hell?" I whispered, my voice barely working. She didn't respond, didn't move. She just stood there, watching me. Then she turned and started walking away, slowly, like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just shattered a window and thrown a weapon into someone's house. I stood there for a few seconds, completely frozen, trying to understand what I had just witnessed. Then reality hit me. Someone just attacked my house. I grabbed my phone immediately and called 911. My voice was shaking as I explained what happened. Broken window, unknown woman, possible threat. They told me to stay inside, lock everything, and wait for officers, so I did. I checked every door, every lock, every window. That's when I realized something that made it worse. The window she broke was unlocked. If she wanted to, she could have climbed inside, easily. That thought made my chest tighten, because it meant one thing: she didn't want to come in. She wanted me to know she could. I backed away from the kitchen, avoided looking at the window, but I couldn't ignore the feeling that someone was still out there, watching, waiting. Minutes passed, then I heard something else, a sound from the side of the house, soft at first, then clearer, footsteps moving along the wall. My heart started racing again because she wasn't gone. She was still here, circling the house. I turned off the lights immediately. Dropped to the floor, trying to stay out of sight. The footsteps continued, slow, deliberate, then stopped right outside the broken window. I didn't move, didn't breathe, and then I heard it, a voice, soft, right outside. "Why didn't you come out?" My blood ran cold. I covered my mouth instantly, because that voice, it wasn't angry. It sounded curious, like she was confused, like she expected me to react differently. I stayed completely still. Then a shadow moved across the broken window. She leaned in slightly, trying to look inside, trying to find me. I pressed myself against the floor, praying she couldn't see me. Seconds passed. Then she stepped back, footsteps again, moving away, this time fading, until there was nothing, no sound, no movement, just silence. The police arrived about 10 minutes later. They searched the area, looked for any sign of her, but they didn't find anything. No witnesses, no clear footprints, nothing, like she had just disappeared. But before they left, one of the officers said something that stuck with me. He asked, "Did she try to come inside?" I shook my head. "No." He nodded slowly, then said, "That's what makes this worse." I didn't understand at first. "What do you mean?" He looked at the broken window, then back at me. "She didn't need to." That sentence stayed with me because it meant she wasn't trying to break in, she was trying to send a message, and I still don't know what that message was. But sometimes late at night when I hear something outside, I think about that moment, that empty expression, that calm walk away, and the way she said, "Why didn't you come out?" I used to think the attic was empty, just a dusty storage space filled with old boxes, broken furniture, and things no one cared about anymore. That's what my parents always said. Nothing up there but junk. I believed them. Until the night I was home alone. My parents had left earlier that evening to attend a wedding out of town. My brother was supposed to stay with me, but he bylaid last minute to hang out with his friends, so it was just me, alone. In a house that suddenly felt too quiet. At first everything was normal. I stayed downstairs, watched TV, ate junk food, typical stuff. I kept the lights on in every room I used just to avoid that empty feeling creeping in. Hours passed, nothing unusual. Around midnight I decided to head upstairs. That's when things changed. As soon as I reached the top of the stairs I felt it, that weird shift in atmosphere, like the air was heavier, colder. I brushed it off and walked to my room. But just as I was about to go inside I heard something. A soft thump above me. I froze, slowly looked up at the ceiling. Another sound, a faint dragging noise. My stomach dropped, because there was only one thing above my room, the attic. I stood there staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it. Maybe something fell. Maybe it was just old wood shifting. That's what I told myself. Then it happened again. Thump, drag, slow, controlled, not random. Something was moving up there. I backed away from my bedroom door instinctively, my eyes still locked on the ceiling. "Hello?" I called out. Silence, no response. I waited, listening. Then another sound, but this time it wasn't above me. It was in the hallway, a soft creak, like someone stepping on the floor. I turned slowly, my heart racing. The hallway was empty, no one there, but I knew what I heard. And then a voice from behind me. "Hey!" I spun around so fast I almost lost my balance. No one in my room, no one in the hallway. But that voice, it sounded exactly like my mom. My chest tightened, because she wasn't supposed to be home. There was no way she could be there. "Mom," I said cautiously. No answer, just silence again. I stood there, trying to breathe, trying to think. Maybe she came back early. Maybe she forgot something. Maybe no. That word slipped out of my mouth before I even realized it. Because deep down I knew that wasn't her, that wasn't possible. Then another sound from the attic, louder this time. Like something dropped hard onto the floor above me, followed by quick movement, not slow anymore, fast, running across the attic. My heart felt like it was going to explode. I turned and ran into my room, slamming the door behind me, locking it instantly. I grabbed my phone. Hands shaking, I didn't hesitate this time. I called 911. As I tried to explain what was happening, I heard something that made my blood run cold. The attic door opening. It was in the hallway right above the pull-down ladder. I could hear it clearly, the creak of wood. Then a heavy thud, like something dropping down onto the floor. My breathing stopped, because whatever was in the attic was no longer in the attic. It was in the house. I backed away from my door slowly. Then footsteps, right outside my room, slow, dragging slightly. Like something adjusting to walking on a different surface. I covered my mouth, trying not to make a sound. The footsteps stopped right in front of my door. Then a soft knock, 3 times, exactly the same rhythm, slow, deliberate. Then that voice again, my mom's voice. "Open the door, honey." Tears filled my eyes instantly, because it sounded so real, so familiar, but I knew better. "Open the door," it repeated, this time slightly off, like it was trying too hard, like it was copying something it didn't fully understand. I didn't respond, didn't move. Seconds passed, then a louder knock, more aggressive. "Open the door," each word more strained than the last. I squeezed my eyes shut. The dispatcher on the phone kept telling me help was coming, to stay calm, to stay quiet. Then suddenly silence. The knocking stopped, the footsteps disappeared. Nothing until sirens, loud, close, and just like that, whatever was outside my door was gone. The police searched the house, every room, every corner, the attic too, but they didn't find anyone. No sign of forced entry, no footprints, nothing, except for one thing in the attic. They found something that didn't belong. A pile of old food wrappers, empty bottles, and a blanket. Someone had been living up there, watching, listening, learning, and worst of all, they had learned how we sounded, how we spoke, how we called each other. I moved out of that house a month later, and even now, if I hear someone call my name when I'm alone, I don't answer, because sometimes it's not who you think it is. I was 13 when this happened, too young to know better, but old enough to remember every single detail. It was a Saturday afternoon, bright outside, quiet neighborhood, the kind of day where nothing feels dangerous. My parents had stepped out for a bit just to run errands. They told me they'd be gone for an hour. "Don't open the door for anyone," my mom said before leaving. I nodded. Of course, I'd heard that 100 times. For the first 30 minutes, everything was normal. I was in the living room watching TV, not really thinking about anything. The front door was locked, windows closed, house quiet, safe. Then the doorbell rang. It wasn't loud, just one press. I glanced toward the door but didn't move, probably a delivery or someone at the wrong house. Then it rang again, longer this time. I muted the TV, sat there for a second thinking, don't open the door, that's what my mom said, so I didn't. Instead, I got up slowly and walked toward the hallway, not to open it, just to look. We had one of those small side windows next to the door, just enough to see who was outside if you stood at the right angle. I stepped carefully, quiet, and looked. A man standing on the porch, smiling. He looked normal. That's what scared me later. There was nothing obviously wrong about him. No mask, no weapon, no reason to panic, just a regular guy holding a stack of magazines. He looked directly at the window, at me, and his smile got wider. "Hey there," he said through the door, "I know you're home." My stomach tightened. "I'm selling subscriptions," he continued. "Mind if I talk to your parents?" I didn't respond. He leaned a little closer. "They around?" "No," I said before I could stop myself. The second the word left my mouth, I regretted it because his expression changed. Not completely, just slightly, but enough. That smile felt different now. "Oh," he said softly, "that's okay." There was a pause, then he said something that made my chest tighten. "You can still help me out." I stepped back from the window. "I'm not allowed to open the door," I said. Silence, then a soft chuckle. "That's all right," he said. "You don't have to open it all the way." My heart started racing. "What?" I asked. "Just crack it," he said calmly. "We can talk right there." Something about the way he said it, it wasn't a suggestion, it felt like a test. I didn't move, didn't respond. Then the doorknob moved slowly, gently, like he was checking it. Locked. He tried again, this time harder. My chest tightened. "Hey," I said, my voice shaking now. "Stop." He didn't. The handle rattled once more, then stopped. Silence. I thought maybe he left, maybe it was over. Then a knock, not on the door, on the glass, right next to me. I flinched hard and turned. He had moved, standing right beside the window now. Closer than before, too close. His face just inches from the glass, still smiling, but now his eyes looked different. Empty, cold. "You shouldn't be alone," he said softly. My entire body went cold. I backed away immediately. "I'm calling my parents," I said. He tilted his head slightly. "Go ahead." That response didn't feel right. It felt like he didn't care, like he knew something I didn't. I turned and ran to my room, locked the door, grabbed my phone. I tried calling my mom. No answer. Then my dad, straight to voicemail. My hands were shaking. I didn't want to call 911. I didn't want to overreact. But then I heard something from the hallway, a creak. My heart stopped because there was no way, no possible way he should be inside. I stared at my door, waiting, listening, then footsteps inside the house, slow, heavy. Getting closer, my entire body froze because that meant one thing: he found a way in. I called 911 immediately, whispering now, barely able to speak. "There's someone in my house." The operator told me to stay quiet, to hide. Help was on the way. The footsteps stopped right outside my room, then a soft knock 3 times. "Hey," he said quietly, right on the other side. "We can talk now." I didn't respond, didn't breathe, didn't move. Minutes passed, then sirens, faint, then louder. The footsteps outside my door moved, fast, running, then silence. When the police arrived, they searched the entire house. They didn't find him, but they did find something. The back door, unlocked and slightly open. He hadn't broken in, he had just walked in. Because somewhere in all of this, someone had forgotten to lock it. And he was waiting for that exact mistake. I never forgot that day. And even now, if someone knocks on my door, I don't care how normal they look, I don't answer. Because sometimes the most dangerous people don't look dangerous at all. I didn't come out of my room, even after the police told me it was safe. I just sat there on the floor, back against the wall, phone still in my hand, listening to everything outside like it could come back at any second. "Hey, you can open the door now," one of the officers said from the hallway. His voice was calm, normal, but after what I had just experienced, I didn't trust voices anymore. "Can you say your name?" I asked. There was a pause, then he answered, "Officer Daniels." I walked slowly to the door, unlocked it, opened it just a crack, and saw him standing there, uniform, flashlight, another officer behind him. Relief hit me all at once, but it didn't last long, because the first thing he said was, "You said he was inside." I nodded quickly. Yes, I heard him walking. He was right outside my door. The officers exchanged a glance. "We didn't find anyone," he said. "That didn't make sense." "He was here," I said. "He was right here." They checked the whole house again, closets, bathroom, kitchen. Even outside, nothing, no forced entry, no broken locks, no footprints, just an open back door. And then one of the officers asked something that made my stomach drop. "Did you actually see him inside?" I froze because the answer was no, I heard him. I knew he was there, but I never actually saw him inside the house. That doubt crept in again. What if he never came in? What if he just made me think he did? The officers left after about 20 minutes. They told me to lock everything. Call again if anything felt off. Then they were gone, and I was alone again. That was the worst part, because now the house felt different, like it wasn't mine anymore. Every shadow looked wrong. Every sound felt louder. I checked every door, every window twice. Then I went back to my room, locked it, sat on the bed, trying to calm down. That's when I noticed something. My window, it was slightly open, just a few inches. I was sure I had closed it earlier. I stood up slowly, walked toward it. And that's when I saw it, on the outside of the glass, a smudge like a handprint pressed against the window from the outside. My breath caught in my throat because my room was on the second floor. There was no easy way to reach that window, no ladder. No balcony, nothing, which meant he found a way, or worse, he had been closer than I thought. I locked the window immediately, closed the curtains, but the feeling didn't go away because now I knew something. He didn't leave, not really, he just moved. And he was still out there, somewhere, watching. I didn't sleep that night, not even for a second. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face at the window, that same empty smile, like he already knew something about me that I didn't, so I stayed awake. Sitting on my bed back against the wall, staring at the door like it might move again. Time felt slow, unnaturally slow. I checked my phone every few minutes. 1:12 a.m., 1:19 a.m., 1:26 a.m. It felt like hours were passing, but barely any time moved at all. The house was completely silent, too silent. No TV, no footsteps, no outside noise, just stillness. And that's when I heard it, a soft sound from downstairs. I froze instantly. At first I thought it was my imagination again, my brain trying to fill the silence with something. But then it came again, a faint creak, like weight shifting on the floor. My heart started pounding because I knew that sound. Someone was walking inside the house. I slowly stood up from my bed. Every movement felt loud, even though I was trying to be silent. I stepped closer to my door, pressed my ear against it, listening. Nothing, just silence again. Then another sound from the kitchen, a cabinet, opening, then closing, slow, deliberate. My stomach dropped because there was no way the police had already checked the house. They said it was clear, so how? Click, I jumped. That sound came from downstairs, a light switch. Someone had just turned on a light. My breathing became shallow because now I knew. This wasn't in my head, someone was actually there, moving comfortably like they belonged. I backed away from the door slowly, trying not to make a sound, then footsteps, moving again, but this time they were different. Slower, heavier, more confident, like whoever it was no longer trying to hide. They walked across the living room. I could hear the floorboards creak beneath each step. Then they stopped right below my room. I didn't breathe, didn't move. And then something happened that I will never forget. A voice from downstairs, soft, calm. "Hey." My entire body went cold. Because that voice, it sounded like me, exactly like me, same tone, same pitch, same way I speak. I backed away from the door in complete shock. "No," I whispered, but it happened again. "Hey," this time slightly louder, like it was testing the sound. Practicing it, my chest tightened, because now I understood something terrifying. He wasn't just watching, he was listening, learning, studying the way I talked, the way I sounded. Then footsteps again, moving toward the stairs. My heart felt like it was going to explode, because that meant he was coming up. I grabbed my phone immediately, dialed 911 again. My voice barely came out. "He's back," I whispered. "He's inside, I can hear him." The dispatcher told me to stay on the line, stay hidden. Help was on the way, but it didn't feel fast enough. Because the footsteps were getting closer, step by step, up the stairs, slow, deliberate, until they stopped right outside my door. Silence, complete silence. Then a soft knock 3 times, exactly the same as before, and then my voice from the other side. "Open the door." Tears filled my eyes instantly, because hearing your own voice from outside your room when you know you're alone breaks something inside you. "I know you're in there," it said, same voice, same tone, but wrong, completely wrong. I didn't respond, didn't move, I just sat there, frozen. Then a pause, and something changed. The tone shifted, slightly impatient now. "Open it." Then louder, "Open it." The doorknob rattled violently, over and over. I screamed, I couldn't help it, and suddenly it stopped. Silence again. Seconds passed, then footsteps moving away fast, down the hallway, then downstairs. Then nothing. A few minutes later the police arrived again, this time faster. They searched everything, every room, every closet, every inch of the house, but just like before, nothing. No one, no sign of forced entry, no explanation, except one thing, the kitchen light, it was on. I know for a fact I didn't turn it on, and neither did the police earlier, which meant someone did, someone who knew how to move quietly, how to wait, how to watch, and how to learn. That was the moment I realized this wasn't random. This wasn't just some stranger trying to get in. This was someone who had been studying me for longer than I wanted to believe. And the worst part, I still don't know how long he had been watching before that night. After the second police visit, my parents came home early. I didn't even wait for them to ask questions. The moment they walked through the door, I started talking. Everything, the man at the door, the voice, the footsteps, the window, all of it. At first they tried to stay calm, tried to explain it away. "Maybe you were just scared," my mom said gently. "Your mind can play tricks when you're alone." But my dad didn't say anything, he just listened, quiet, focused. Then he asked me one question. "Did anything feel planned?" That word stuck with me, planned. I thought about it for a second, then I nodded. "Yeah," I said, "it didn't feel random." Because it was. That realization didn't fully hit me until the next day. Morning came, sunlight filled the house. Everything looked normal again, safe, but it didn't feel safe, not anymore. My parents told me to stay inside while my dad checked around the house, just to be sure. He started outside, walking the perimeter, checking windows, looking for anything unusual. At first there was nothing, then he stopped. Right near the side of the house. "Come here," he called. Something in his voice made my chest tighten. I walked outside slowly. "What is it?" I asked. He didn't answer, he just pointed at the ground, and that's when I saw it. Footprints, clear, deep. Right beneath my window. My stomach dropped instantly because those weren't random. They weren't someone just walking by, they were positioned, back and forth, like someone had been standing there for a long time, watching. "Those weren't here yesterday," my dad said quietly. I didn't respond, I couldn't. Because I already knew what that meant. He wasn't just passing by, he had been there, waiting, watching my window, watching me. Then my dad noticed something else. Higher up on the wall, right below the window, faint marks, like something had been pressed against it. Repeatedly, I stepped closer. And that's when I realized they were handprints, faint, smudged, but definitely there. My breathing got heavier because now it made sense. The window, the smudge, he wasn't just standing outside. He was trying to see in, trying to find me, trying to understand the layout, the routine, everything. Then my dad said something that made it even worse. "These prints are from different times." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" He pointed at the ground again. "Some are fresh," he said, "some are older." My heart dropped because that meant he didn't just come last night. He had been here before, multiple times, watching, learning, and I never noticed. That thought hit harder than anything else. because it meant one thing. He knew things about me, things I didn't even realize someone could know. And that became clear later that day. Around the afternoon, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Hello, silence, then breathing, slow, controlled. I hung up immediately. My hands were shaking. A few seconds later, another call, same number. I didn't answer, then a message. Just 3 words, I see you. My entire body went cold. I ran to the window instinctively, looked outside, nothing, no one, but that didn't matter anymore, because now I knew something. He didn't need to be close, he didn't need to be visible. He had already learned enough. Enough to scare me without even being there. That night I didn't stay in my room. I stayed in the living room with my parents, lights on, TV on, everything on, trying to fill the silence. But deep down I knew something had changed. Because this wasn't just about a stranger anymore. This was someone who had been watching, studying, waiting, and now he wanted me to know it. That night none of us really slept. We stayed in the living room together, me, my mom, and my dad. The TV was on, but nobody was watching it. It was just noise, just something to fight off the silence. Every little sound made us look up, every creak, every shift in the house. It didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a place someone else knew better than we did. Around 2:30 a.m. my dad finally stood up. I'm checking everything again, he said. My mom tried to stop him. Just wait until morning. But he shook his head. No. There was something different in his voice. Not panic, not fear, something worse, certainty, like he already knew something wasn't right. He grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer and walked toward the hallway. I didn't want him to go alone. I'm coming with you, I said. He hesitated. Then nodded. Stay behind me, he said quietly. We moved through the house slowly, room by room, kitchen clear, bathroom clear, closets empty, everything looked normal, too normal, until we reached the hallway near the back of the house. That's where it changed. My dad stopped walking. What is that? I whispered. He didn't answer, he just pointed at the wall. At first I didn't understand what I was looking at, then I saw it. Small marks, faint scratches right near the light switch, not random, not accidental. They were in lines, grouped, almost like tally marks. My stomach dropped. What is that? I asked again. My dad stepped closer, ran his fingers over them. They weren't here before, he said. The air felt heavy because that didn't make sense. Nobody had been in the house, not that we knew of. Then he moved the flashlight slightly to the side, and that's when we saw something worse. On the edge of the wall near the corner, more marks, but these weren't scratches. These were words, carved, faint, but readable. I felt my chest tighten as I stepped closer, trying to make them out, and then I did. 3 words. I see you. I stumbled back. No, I whispered, because that couldn't be real. That couldn't have just appeared overnight. That meant someone had been inside before. My dad didn't say anything. He just stood there, staring at the wall. Then slowly, he turned the flashlight toward the ceiling. And that's when everything changed. Right above us was the attic hatch, slightly open, just a crack. My heart stopped because I remembered something from earlier, the noises, the voice, the movement. What if I started? But I didn't finish because my dad already knew. He walked forward slowly, reached up, and pulled the hatch down. It creaked loudly as it opened. Dust fell from the edges. The ladder dropped halfway. And for a moment, everything was silent, completely silent. Then a smell hit us, stale, rotten, like something had been sitting up there too long. My dad shined the flashlight up into the attic, and what we saw I wish I could forget. It wasn't empty, not even close. There were things up there, arranged carefully. Water bottles, food wrappers, blankets, and something else. Something that made my entire body go cold. Photos, printed photos, scattered across the floor. My dad climbed up slowly. I stayed below, too afraid to move. Stay there, he said, but I couldn't. I had to see. I climbed up behind him. And the moment I stepped into the attic, I felt it, that feeling, like I wasn't supposed to be there, like someone else had been recently. The photos were everywhere, some of the house, some of the street, and some of me. My chest tightened because these weren't random. These were taken from outside, through windows, different days, different times, some during the day, some at night, some when I was alone, and some when I thought no one was watching. My hands started shaking. How long? I whispered. My dad didn't answer because we both knew. This wasn't recent. This had been going on for a while. Then we heard something from below, a sound, the front door opening. My heart stopped. because there was no way my mom was still downstairs, which meant someone else had just walked in. The front door opened, slow, deliberate. The sound echoed through the house like it didn't belong there, like it wasn't supposed to happen. I froze in the attic. My dad froze too. We didn't look at each other. We didn't need to. We both knew someone was inside again. My heart started pounding so hard I thought it would give me away. "Stay here," my dad whispered, but I grabbed his arm. "No, don't go down there," because I already knew this wasn't someone confused. This wasn't someone who picked the wrong house. This was the same person. And this time he wasn't leaving. We stayed still, listening. Footsteps from the hallway, slow, heavy, familiar, like he had walked this house before, because he had step, pause, moving deeper inside, not rushing, not searching, walking like he already knew where everything was, where we were. My breathing became shallow, then a voice from downstairs, soft, calm, "Hello." My chest tightened instantly because that voice, it sounded like my dad, perfectly, exactly the same tone, same weight, but my dad was right next to me and he heard it too. I could feel his grip tighten on the flashlight. Then another voice, this time my mom's. "Are you upstairs?" Tears filled my eyes instantly, because it sounded so real, so normal, like everything was fine, like nothing had happened, but it wasn't her, it couldn't be. The footsteps started again, closer now, heading toward the hallway, toward the attic. My entire body went cold because he knew exactly where we were. Then silence right below us. I could hear breathing, slow, controlled, right under the attic hatch. Then a creak, the ladder. It moved slightly, like someone touched it, testing it. I covered my mouth to stop myself from making a sound. Then my voice right below us, "Come down." I felt something inside me break, because hearing your own voice like that from something that isn't you, it's not fear. It's something worse, it's wrong, completely wrong. The ladder shifted again, a slow pull, it started to open. My dad reacted instantly. He stepped forward and shoved it back up with force. The hatch slammed shut. A loud bang echoed through the house. Silence, complete silence. Then something hit the hatch from below, hard, once, then again and again. Each hit louder than the last, like whatever was down there was getting impatient, was getting angry. The wood creaked with every impact. I thought it was going to break. I thought he was going to come through. And then sirens, loud, close, getting closer fast. The banging stopped instantly, silence again, then footsteps running fast away from the hallway downstairs, then the front door opening, slamming shut, gone just like that. The police arrived within minutes. This time they didn't just search, they stayed, they checked everything. The attic, the house, the outside. And this time they found something near the back of the house, hidden behind the fence, a bag, inside it tools, gloves, and something that made my stomach drop completely. A small voice recorder. The officer pressed play, and what came out of it? I will never forget my voice, over and over, different words, different tones. "Hello, open the door." "Hey," recorded, saved, practiced. My dad's voice too, my mom's, all of it. He had been recording us for who knows how long, learning, perfecting, becoming. The officer looked at us and said something that still haunts me. He wasn't just watching you. He paused, then said he was preparing. We moved out a week later, didn't take much, didn't look back. The house was sold months after that. And as far as I know, no one ever reported anything like that again. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I still hear it. My voice calling out from somewhere it shouldn't be. Open the door, and I never do. If you are new here, subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a nightmare.